Hello there. Today I'm going to be looking at menu customization on the Next. And a while ago, Gary Lancaster implemented a feature that allowed you to effectively change and customize these menus here. And it was done via a text file that's stored in the Next ZXOS folder. And quite difficult for someone who's new to this. Quite difficult to get to grips with the format of the text file, etc. So David Sapphire, aka Imook, has kindly written a tool that allows you to customize the menus more easily, provides a lot of shortcuts to the run commands that you need to invoke for each file type, etc. So with this tool you can move items around. You can create your own menus as well, and I'm just going to go through customizing, creating your own custom menu should you want to, and I might move some things around as well, because if you run 48k basic a lot, you may want it on the main screen, or if you run CPM a lot, you may want it on the first screen as well. So I'll just go through some examples of that. So the tool itself is Menu Edit. Now you'll have to forgive my SD card because it's a right mess. This is my main Next, and my SD card has been growing stuff for the past X number of years. So I may have trouble finding stuff. So we run menuedit.bas, and here you'll see a representation of the actual Next menu. So this is the first screen that you get, and you'll see that we have the usual suspects in this list. You'll notice there's a menu ID that is 0. That is quite important. And we'll also see to the left of each item is the shortcut key that is used to quickly launch that particular selection. And we'll see that for the browser that's highlighted at the moment, we have the command i10. I is an internal command. It's an internal Next ZXOS. So i10 always refers to the browser. I2 is the command line, I0 Next Basic, I1 Calculator. Guide is running Next ZXOS, and M More, which will take you to the second screen menu, as you can see, M1. M is a command that takes you to another menu. So we are on menu ID 0, selecting More will take you to menu ID 1. And we can move between all of the existing menus within Next ZXOS with the left and right cursors. So if I move right one, we'll see at the top we are now on menu ID 1. That is M1. So on this screen here we were at, M1 would take you to this second menu. And there's a series of additional selections you can make within this menu, and each of those selections will show you what command it will actually run. Then there's another menu in here called Tools, and that takes you to M6. So you can go and have a look at M6, or looking at More here, M0. So that will take you back to the first menu. M6 will take you to Tools, which is this new menu that Gary has kindly set up, which allows you to quickly access things like the clock, Wi-Fi setup, and the updater, which will allow you in future to apply kind of deltas to your distribution. You download the delta update to your SD card, you go into updater, and then you point it to the file and it will update it. Okay, so what we want to do though is we want to create a menu. Let's say you've got a number of utilities that you like to use, and conventionally you'd have to go through the browser to locate them. You might have simplified the process. You might have created runnable directories or other things that I've shown in previous videos to make it easier or quicker for you to get to them. But this is really about creating a utilities menu that I'm going to do here. Okay, so also to note is at the bottom of the screen here we've got a file menu that we can bring up as well, but I'll come to that. 6 to exit that menu. So if we want to add a new menu, we need to move right. We get to the last menu, which is 6, and then we have current menu 7, ID 0. So this is the next available slot. And all we have to do is select Add Item. And the first thing it's going to do is ask us what is the menu title. So I'm just going to call this one Utils. And then at the bottom it asks us to enter the $sign. And that will open up the various actions that you can have this option perform. So put in a dollar, enter. And we get these options here. Execute basic, which is just basically a basic command. Internal, which will allow us to use some of these internal things that I mentioned. Jump menu, which is an M command, which will jump to a specific menu. Show a guide. Select file, select basic, select next, or just browse. Just browse is just to enable you to familiarize yourself again with the file system, just so you can remind yourself where something is, etc. Select next, basic, and file are the things that allow you to select files to execute. Now, select file has some intelligence built into it, in that it will evaluate the file extension that you're selecting and will then try and match an appropriate run command to it. So technically you probably don't need select basic or select next, because if you do select file and then select a basic file, it will then apply the necessary basic command line to run it. And similarly, if you select a next file here, it will apply the correct syntax to run the next file. And it will also work for things like SNX files as well. It will put the Spectrum command at the start of it so that can run. So the first thing I want to do is I want to add in Calm Commander. So I'm going to select file, and then I'm going to browse into my current folder where Calm Commander lives. Calm Commander is a next file. I'll select that, and as you can see now, it's actually entered the command. It's CD'd to the directory in question. It's then going to run a .command next load calm commander.next, and I just press enter on that. The next thing that it's going to want me to do is to give this entry a name. Now, it's suggested a name based on the file extension, of course, but what I also want to do is I want to apply a shortcut key to this option as well. And as we can see with the edit menu that's just sitting above the flashing cursor at the moment, if we add in an underscore after the letter we want, then that letter, the C in this case, will become the shortcut key. So if I press return on this, we can see now we've got a Calm Commander option in there. Now I want to add in another item, and the item I'm going to add in next is going to be this actual menu edit utility itself, so I can quickly get to it to make changes, etc. So I put the dollar in again, and I could do select basic because I know it's a basic file, or I could just do select file, and then I can come into this isn't in my current folder, this is in my menu edit folder in the root. So I select menu edit.bas, and as you can see here, we've got a clear command which is going to effectively erase memory in case there's some other program in memory. It's then going to cd to the folder, and then it's going to load menu edit.bas. Job done. And I'm going to title case this. I'm also going to have the M being the shortcut key. So it's just menu edit, press enter. And then I'm going to add another item, which is going to be the Crystal Designs suite. So again, dollar, I'm going to just select file. Again, it's in my current folder. I'm going to look for Crystal, and then crystaldesigns.bas. So again, there's the command line. I'm then just going to call this Crystal. I'm going to go back just after the K, put in an underscore, Crystal. Job done. Although job isn't done. And there's two reasons why job isn't done. The first one is I haven't saved it. So I'm going to press M for the file menu, and then save menu config. Yes, I am sure. Press enter. That is now saved. And what I can also do from the menu is I can back up the menu config as well. So that's handy if you just want to stick it in some other folder somewhere. At the moment, it's probably going to default to Crystal. I could stick it in another folder. I'll just save it there just for the hell of it. And that's a backup. Now, the other thing that's not done yet is the menu ID, because the menu ID is showing as 0, and that will conflict with the first menu, also has the ID 0. So what we have to do is we have to change the menu ID of this new utils menu. We just select an option, any option, and it will give us the ability to edit the menu ID. Now, we know that the last menu ID in use is number 6, but it's a good idea to just skip a few. Because if Gary, in his infinite wisdom, decides to create additional menus in NextZXOS, he may start to consume menu ID 7, 8, 9, etc. So it's good to start at 10. So we need to know that our menu is 10. That's how we're going to refer to it. And I'm going to press M again and save that change. Okay. Now the problem is we have a menu ID 10 with these 3 options in. But we can't actually get to that menu. There's nothing within the menu system which says go to menu ID 10. So what we need to do is we need to decide how we're going to get to the utils menu. And I think the best way is probably using the very first menu, and we'll create an option in there to get to the menu we've just created. Bear in mind, if we look at the next menu, 10 items is the maximum you can have on a menu. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So this menu is full. So we can't add anything to it unless we were to remove something from it. So I'm going to go back to this menu here, the first menu, and I'm going to add an item. And I'm going to use the dollar to open the actions. And then we're going to come down to jump menu. So M comes up automatically, and we're going to put 10 in, enter. And we're going to give this a name. And again, I'm going to call it utils just so it matches. And the underscore after the U means that U will be the shortcut key. You have to be mindful not to use the same shortcut key if it's already in use. What happens, I believe, is that the first one matching that shortcut is the one that will be invoked. So always keep your shortcut keys unique within a particular menu. Okay, so now utils appears at the bottom, but I want it above more because more is the command that takes you to the next menu. So if I select utils, press enter, I have the option to move the entry up. So now utils is above more. I can then press M again, save the menu config, are you sure? Yes, and that is now saved. So what should happen is if I reboot now, I will have an extra option on my main menu screen called utils, and when I select utils, that will take me to menu 10. And menu 10 has the options Calm Commander, menu edit, and crystal designs in there. Okay, and there we have it, utils. So I select utils, it's taken me to menu 10. And I can select various options in there, and it will run them. Reboot, just to prove it. Calm Commander. There you go. Let's come out of that. Really quickly, yes. Okay. So that is creating a new menu. Now you've probably noticed that there's no way of actually getting back from this menu to the menu that we invoked it from. And so what we want to do is we want to add in an option to go back. So I'm going to fire up menu edit here. And I'm going to go to the menu I created, ID 10. I'm going to add an item. and I'm going to call this item, well, I'm going to call it back. Put the dollar in. It's a jump menu command, and I'm going to jump to M0, which is the menu that I invoke it from, the main menu. And I'm going to call this one B underscore ACK, so the back, the B, becomes the shortcut. And then put a few dots in there, because I think that's the way that they normally are presented in NextZX OS. Save menu, are you sure? Yes. And that's it. So that is now saved. So now if I reboot and I go into this new utilities menu, there will be a back option which will take me back. There we are. Pretty cool. What things you might want to put in there, completely up to you. Obviously if there's things that you do a lot or run a lot. On the 2B with the Wi-Fi noise, you may want to have a shortcut command to switch off the Wi-Fi. That's quite easy to do. Typically you would run a reg command. So if we were to add $ execute basic, okay. And the basic we're going to run is b reg 2,128. That is to disable the onboard Wi-Fi. Enter. And we're going to call this, could call it anything really, but d underscore disable Wi-Fi. And D is the shortcut key. And I'm going to move this above the back. So I'm going to select it, move entry up, and then M, save menu config. Yes. Okay. So now if I reboot, go into utils, disable Wi-Fi, and that has done it. Take my word for it. So we can go back. And that's it, really. Let me just go back in here and just show. If you, for example, use CPM a lot, you might want to move CPM to the front screen. The only thing is you already have a shortcut for C, so you couldn't have the shortcut for CPM being C unless you move the calculator to another menu or give the calculator a different invocation key. So I can look at CPM here and see the command it's running is B, and it's running a dot command CPM. So if I select CPM here, I can delete the entry. Yes. Now it's gone. And if I come back to the first menu and add item, execute basic dot CPM, and I shall call this C, because C is already in use. P, I'll make it P. I think P is not in use yet. So P is going to be the shortcut key for CPM in this case. And I can move it up. And then press M, save, job done. And M, back up. It's sticking it nicely in the menu edit folder now because that's the last folder I looked in. So whatever you do to your distribution, if you update or whatever, you can have your menu configs backed up in here. So that is that. Reboot. So now we have CPM in the main menu and we can press P. I don't actually know if CPM's... it is set up on this, yeah. Can never remember. So there we go. Now we've got to bear in mind that the menus themselves are limited in numbers because the whole menu system has to fit in memory. And I think there's only 2 kilobytes reserved for these kinds of things. So bearing in mind the limitation of, say, between 10 and 15 additional menus maybe that you can fit, you obviously can't have thousands of things in there. So it's not really a suitable platform for, having all your games in, unless there are just a few games that you really like to play a lot. And you could create a games menu and then link that menu from the main menu or another menu. Just to go through some of the menus, actually, some of the other menus that are available, because obviously you can only get to the first two from the main screen, but there are additional menus out there for Next Basic when you press the NMI key. When you go into the Interface 2 option, for example, it gives you all of these options as well. So good examples of how to do stuff. It's handy that you can see the invocation command that actually runs those things as well. And I'm just trying to think if there's anything else interesting to talk about. Obviously, we've backed up our config. What if we've made a huge catastrophic mistake? Well, we can go back to the default menu config. Are you sure? Yes. That hasn't gone back yet. We have to press M. Save menu. Are you sure? Yes. And now when I reboot again, I'll be back to the vanilla Next ZXOS menu. And there we go. Oops. As if nothing ever happened. So I hope this is useful. I mean, it gives you an easy ability, I guess, just to make your own customizations, to make Next ZXOS closer to what you want it to do and how you want it to look. And I think the tool that David has created is really good for allowing beginners, all these guides are for beginners, just to be able to make some changes, get comfortable, get familiar with the command lines, understand what they do, without having to delve really deeply into it and read the manual. So thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.